Well, in Indiana, basketball is a big deal. You can earn bragging rights for having a star player, the most wins, or the most championships. Even having the biggest gym is something to brag about. For years and years, Newcastle has been known as the biggest, not just in Indiana, but in the country. But the most recent count shows that's not correct. As our chief videographer, Seth Tackett, reports, Seymour, not Newcastle, is the new #1.
Sure, you always want to be the biggest and the best, right?
Certainly there's a lot of community pride in saying we have the biggest.
Boys basketball in Seymour, that was always a big deal.
Since the gym opened in 1970-71, we've been like third in the state.
That was the place to be.
Wherever you go, somebody, if they know anything about Seymour, they're usually going to ask about a couple different things. They're going to ask about John Mellencamp, and they're going to ask about our gymnasium.
That's Richard Tucolvi, and he's a self-proclaimed professional seat counter. Armed with a tape measure and with blueprints in hand, he's been doing this for over 20 years. He's been in every county across the state, counting, measuring, and, well, helping rewrite the Indiana high school basketball record books.
We add all these numbers up. We have 8,228 seats in this gym.
8,228. That is how many Indiana high school basketball fans can fit in the Lloyd E. Scott Gymnasium in Seymour, Indiana.
That's what I counted March 14th, 2015, approximately 4.5 years ago. So they're pretty comparable. Newcastle doesn't have far to go to catch Seymour. Looks like it's 79-24 and 82-28. We're talking 304 seats would tie it. 305 seats, you could keep the sign up at Newcastle.
The long-held belief by basketball fans was that Newcastle could hold 9,325 fans and was therefore the home of the largest gym in the country, not Seymour. But decades of counting from Tucolvi and his fellow Indiana High School Basketball Historical Society member Doug Bradley changed the landscape of high school gyms and sent Seymour to #1 and Newcastle to #3. And according to Tucolvi, it's because of Newcastle's temporary seating.
Okay, the red line here is the actual, on this seating chart, is where the permanent seats are at. And all these seats above here are your 1,408 seats that haven't been used in a long time, and there's where the debate comes in, if you want to call it that word.
Newcastle Community Schools declined to comment on this story. The Historical Society is an organization dedicated to documenting and preserving the game's history. That is why Tucolvi claims he spent hour after hour counting to set the record straight, because ticket sales were Newcastle's ticket to #1, not permanent seating. Former Historical Society President John Auckman wanted the decades of counting to finally count and encouraged Bradley to set the record straight.
He kept saying that Newcastle is not the largest gym anymore in seating capacity. So I said, well, let's do something about it. And I finally pushed him. They said, let's go on record. So I called Lee Evans at hickoryhusker.com and said, here's the story. And he said, well, are you sure about it? And I said, yes, you can trust Doug Bradley. He's very thorough. He decided to put it on his website, hickoryhusker.com. And no one really said much, but then he put it out on Facebook.
When the news spread on social media, it was met with great fanfare from Seymour fans and disdain from the Newcastle faithful. Tom McKinney teaches a class at Indiana University on the history of Indiana high school basketball.
Certainly there's a lot of community pride in saying we have the biggest, but, I think in Newcastle they're probably saying still, well, we still think we have the largest high school and gymnasium, but in Seymour they're saying, yeah, but all of yours aren't permanent bleachers and everything. So there's a source of pride. I do see an advantage if you have a larger gymnasium. The IHSA will award you with a sectional and possibly a sectional and a regional, and just the fact that you're playing there all the time, I think, does give you an advantage when it goes in the tournament.
Former Michigan State guard and current Seymour athletic director Kurt Manns is in his first season as the boys basketball coach.
It's really neat to see somebody that hasn't been in this gym to walk in and watch their eyes get big and say, this is a high school gym. I say, yeah, it's a high school gym. And then I get a chance to tell them about the games that we're able to host here and all the games and you know, how many years back and all the history. So it's a pretty neat deal. It's a place that our community takes a great deal of pride in.
And the radio voice of the Owls, Bud Shippey, has seen a lot of that history firsthand from his perch in the gymnasium.
We had a game in the regional where Damon Bailey played against Pat Graham, both IU players and both Mr. Basketballs. All three of the Zeller boys played here during the tournament. Both Bloomington Souths and John Holmes and Jordy Hulls both played here, both regular season and tournament games. And of course, Romeo Langford.
Seymour has historically been a springboard to Bloomington for Hoosiers chasing a state championship through the gym, with a number of familiar faces making their mark. The game's winningest coach has paced a number of sidelines across the state and knows what a trip to Seymour means.
Well, usually when you're in the big gyms, you're in the tournament success and you're going down the trails, you know. Seymour's been good. We won a lot of games there and lost some games there in the regional finals and different regionals. But great gym, great facilities. They got the floor redone, the lighting's good, it's really lighting the place up. Obviously, if you have Romeo or Damon in those years, they filled it up. Last year we were there, you know, obviously wasn't filled for even for the regional. You had to have a special player that the town went crazy over, like Bedford did Damon and New Albany did Romeo, that sold every ticket in the place. Great place, great venue, great atmosphere. Even when it's not completely filled in the regionals that we've played in, it's still like a big time place.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Seth Tackett.